Hi guys, my name's Julie and I'm on the ministry direction team here at Smith Valley Baptist Church. A few days ago, Pastor Lori had asked me to share a devotional with you and told me that I could pick the topic, and I told her I would pray about it, but I already knew what I wanted to talk about. In fact, last weekend, God started preparing my heart for this exact moment. Most of you already know that I'm a nurse and I work at a long-term care facility. We have a lot of your typical nursing home patients, but we also have a more acute unit with ventilator patients who are very sick. Last week, I would say I was very calm about the whole COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic. In fact, my husband was having a lot of anxiety about it, and I was the one who was reassuring him that everything's going to be okay, reassuring him that I'm safe at work and that everything's going to be fine and that this is all going to blow over. Last Friday I believe, we started having some symptomatic patients for the first time, and I still did not understand how scary it was going to be to me, honestly. I came home last Friday and I felt fine, and I was like, okay, this is going to be okay. It's no big deal. We'll get them tested. We'll get them treated. It's no big deal. Over the weekend, I started having a lot of anxiety about this, and honestly, I was feeling very depressed, very fearful. I felt like I was not protected when I walked into work. I felt like I was going to bring this home to my family and that I would not be able to forgive myself if I brought this home to a high-risk family member. I had confided with a couple of my friends that this was how I was feeling, and my friend Esther had told me she wanted me to read Romans 8. She had texted that to me, and I had said, I've read Romans 8 100 times probably. So last Saturday morning, I was like, I'm going to read Romans 8 all over again. So I read it again, and for the first time, in all these times I read it, verse 15 has never stuck out for me. But I know that God had orchestrated this moment also for this devotional I'm doing right now. Verse 15, Romans 8:15 said, "For you did not receive a spirit that makes you a slave again to fear." I read that and it stopped me in my tracks, honestly. When I am feeling anxious and when I'm feeling depressed, it is because of some sort of fear I have, some sort of unknown that I am not in control of. I very much am a control freak. It's one of my biggest struggles in my Christian walk is that I struggle with letting God have all the control. When I don't have control, I am a slave to fear. And with that comes anxiety and depression. And I know that I am no longer a slave to those things because Jesus went to the cross for all of those things that come from the sinful nature of man. And we no longer have to be a slave to that. We no longer have to be a slave to fear, anxiety, depression, concern, because he is in control. He is always good, even if the situation is bad. It's hard to say it out loud. It's hard to comprehend it. But I know that if I get this virus, God is still good. If I bring this virus home to my family, God is still good. If someone I know dies from this virus, God is still good. We may not see that in the moment, but we know this side of heaven, that's all our hope is that he is still good and that he is working in this situation. He has orchestrated every second of this. And we no longer have to be a slave to those things, to fear, to anxiety, to depression. I was saying a few minutes ago that Pastor Lori had asked me to do this devotional and that God had already been preparing my heart last week. He'd been preparing my heart for this through this entire time, going to work every day, being an essential worker, not having the option to stay home. He'd been preparing my heart. He had prepared my heart so much that he provided Esther to share that verse with me, the verse I've read 100 times, and that it would pop out to me that would be my new verse. So that is now our family's quarantine verse. For you did not receive a spirit that makes you a slave again to fear. So please know, as we go through this, we do not have to be a slave to fear because we are children of God. He has chosen us. He is going to protect us. He is always good. He is always faithful. He knows every step of the way before we know. He has gone before us in this situation, and that we no longer have to be a slave to fear, anxiety, depression, worry. We can do what we can do. I'm not saying don't take any precautions. I absolutely am going to work. I'm wearing my N95 mask and my gown and gloves and head cover and shoe covers. I'm changing clothes before I leave. I'm coming home and showering immediately. I'm spraying my house with Lysol. Absolutely. He has given us the ability to do those things. He has provided those things for us to do those things, to protect ourselves. But we do not have to be a slave to fear other than that. Do what you can and leave it at the foot of the cross and let God take care of the rest. Since I read that verse last Saturday, it's been a week now, I've been praying over that verse daily. I've been praying over that verse multiple times a day. When I went back to work on Monday, I had some patients who were symptomatic, and before I went in their room, I stood out in the hallway and I prayed that verse. I'm not a slave to fear. God has put me in this situation to take care of these people for a reason. And so that's all we can do. We can do what we can to protect ourselves, and we can pray. And we can ask him to take that anxiety away from us. We can ask him to give us the peace and the calmness. Does that mean we're always going to have it? No, because we're flawed individuals. But we know that God is gone before us in this whole situation, and that he already knows what's going to happen. So I just encourage you this week, if you can, read through Romans 8. That would be really good. If you keep on reading Romans 8:28, in my Bible, that section is labeled, "We are more than conquerors." And I think that that is exactly what we need to be right now, especially all of you essential workers along with me. We are more than conquerors. We are conquering this fear. We're conquering this anxiety. And we're helping take care of these people who desperately need us during this time. I hope this was an encouragement to you. And you will continue to watch our devotionals every other day.